We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, episode 439. I'm your man behind the microphone, the Scholar Jeff. Joining us this week, as always, is the OG Undisputed Scholar himself and the current reigning Scholars of Wrestling World Champion. He is, of course, Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how's your evening going, sir?
Things are going, I guess, okay. I mean, considering what's been going on this week. So there's nothing real to go all, I'm hunky dory.
Life
But
is grand, skipping down the lane, tra la la la. I am a Disney cartoon.
yeah, no, yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
no. That's
Speaking of
that's how I'm feeling. Yeah.
also joining us this week, the other undisputed scholar. He is Scholar Brian. Scholar Brian, how's life treating you, sir?
It's amazing how quickly things can change in a 24-hour time period. Ask us yesterday morning what we were going to talk about this week, and we would have said, not much. Maybe some dynamite stuff, maybe some Grand Slam stuff, and then all hell broke loose. At the time of this recording, this would be yesterday, Thursday morning. Some good stuff happened Thursday morning, and then Thursday afternoon happened, and WWE's normal business practices came back into play.
And we're absolutely going to get into all of that in much finer detail in a segment we like to call Backstage News.
Indeed, we shall go once again, peek behind that curtain and look around and just be like, huh, it's a lot more empty back here in this segment we call
Backstage news.
news.
Ooh.
News.
News.
The
Budget
echoes actually
cuts.
now make sense.
Budget cuts. Man.
Echoes make sense now.
That's probably
Now.
the most accurate meh of ever we've gotten in months. But yes, unfortunately, this is that terrible time of the year when WWE likes to cut a whole bunch of its roster all at once. And for the uninitiated, the full list of released folks, or wrestling talent rather, are as follows: Mustafa Ali, Emma, Rick Boogs, Aaliyah, Elias, Riddick Moss, Top Dollar, Shelton Benjamin, Dolph Ziggler, Dabakato, Bryson Montana, Shanky, Mason Mansoor, Quincy Miller, Quincy Elliott, Dana Brooke, and Yulisa Leon. Many of those names, as you might expect, are NXT, or according to internal logic, they're expected that they were making main roster money, but not being featured on the main roster as much or at all. Uh, Tarek, Brian, initial reactions to this list of people who have just been released from WWE.
Obviously, the big ones are Mustafa Ali, Shelton Benjamin, and Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler mostly because dude's been there for about 20 years. Thought he was going to be a lifer. And and just one of the best talents they had. Another one of those underutilized people who deserved more than he got, and it was basically a concussion that took down his chances because that's how he lost the I think it was the world heavyweight title.
Hmm.
The One of the greatest Money in the Bank cash-ins of all time. The pop that got, one of the loudest I've ever heard, and it was squandered because of a concussion by Alberto Del Rio, and just he never got back to the place that he was, and that's sad. And then you have Shelton Benjamin, who basically had all the accolades of Brock Lesnar in before WWE time, but never got the same recognition for it. And he was one of the best during that time. His run with Shawn Michaels, some of the best stuff on Raw that you'll ever see. And Mustafa Ali, just that's criminal what they did with that guy. That that his creativity on Twitter with promos that should have been on Raw, SmackDown, or NXT, but Vince wouldn't put them on the show. He'd just have them on Twitter, which basically killed any momentum that uh, what was it, Redemption or the
Retribution.
Retribution, and see how memorable that stable is. I can't even remember its name. but but if they had let Mustafa Ali actually run that the way that he wanted to run it, okay, that could have been money TV. And Mason Mansour just I watched that Twitch stream they did uh Thursday night, and some of the skits that they pitched too creative that didn't get used, those some of those skits were creative licenses to print money. So it's like very creative minds that the WWE is getting rid of here, mostly because they couldn't figure out what to do with these people with basically the WWE way. If you get over, if you get yourself over, we want nothing to do with it. It's got to be us creating you, or we're not going to use what you're doing for yourself. And a lot of these people are talented enough that they'll find that they'll get on their feet, get back on their feet. But when you hear about mass talent releases, and you know that it's because of budget cuts, then that it's also that they got themselves over, and WWE didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, and it's also seems to be just even if they do get themselves over and they don't know what to do with that, it's just a lot of they creative has nothing for you that I've seen for people who are really genuinely at least highly over, if nothing else. Specifically, again, we can talk to about Dolph Ziggler to death, but really two names that I was really shocked by were Elias and Rick Boogs. Those guys seemed like they were on just like a fast track to somewhere. Especially Elias seemed to have a lot of upside when he grew his beard out again. And Rick Boogs, this just seems like an instance of just being bogged down by injury. That's just the wrong injury, the wrong time, and it broke his momentum enough that creative lost their momentum on him, which is a
Yeah,
crying shame.
yeah, and it's also Rick Boogs is a Vince McMahon guy. As is a Vince McMahon kind of guy. Rick and when Vince McMahon left and Rick Boogs had the injury, okay, when he came back for the injury, Triple H had no use for him because Rick Boogs is not a Triple H guy, he's a Vince guy,
So, in other words, he got Lacey Evans.
basically.
Being a fan of these people is suffering. We know this. It's now academic. Well, what do you make of all this?
When it came to the budget cuts, I it's just so weird because the last time we had one of these big mass cuts was during the pandemic. And at that time, the world essentially was closed. So I just remember our initial reaction just thinking, why the hell are you guys doing this now? Why do you want to basically throw these people out the door when they have nowhere to go? Now it's different because there's just so much different type of wrestling companies out there that even though, yes, I am very sad with some of these guys, specifically Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin. I'm sorry, fool. I have made it perfectly clear on this show. I like Goliath, but I don't think he was ever like destined to be a level more than just essentially what Godfather became.
How dare you have your own opinions? How dare you, sir?
I'm just telling, I've said it on the show many times. Like, I don't even see, like, the closest, I think the biggest thing that I ever gave, like, him was that he was going to win the United States title. And I was being generous. And even that never happened. Um,
You're
the,
also talking to a guy who was a big fan of Gangrel growing up, so it's not a matter of just winning all the titles. It's a matter of just people you just like.
fair. It's just,
It's your boys, you know.
mhm.
He wanted to walk with Elias, man. Let him walk.
It's just also just weird to like think about how
Well,
he
my
has,
wife did anyway.
oh, um, well, it's just weird because they did push him to a point like he had his own record. He has quite possibly one of the biggest heel reactions in in recent WWE memory with him and Kevin Owens. I don't even remember where they were. They
I
were
don't
in
even remember what they said. It was like something
it
about
was
a local sports
it was a
team.
local sports team, and the crowd were just not letting it go. It's definitely somewhere like the Washington State area, like that corner of the states. Um, but that but yeah, the biggest one for me is Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin. As Brian put, I thought Dolph Ziggler was going to be a lifer. If anything, like even if his in-ring work would have stopped, I saw him as a producer or as a trainer. He would definitely be someone that would work that still would work with the content in the ring, just on the different layout of how the matches would go. But like I said, for everyone here, it's finding a job. Finding a job is not going to be hard. We've even discussed, okay, now we discussed on our chat, where do you think these guys are going to go? Like we said, Emma and uh, Riddick
Riddick
Moss.
Moore.
Riddick Moss could actually really boom in Impact Wrestling. It's I could so much that I can actually see Moss like going for the world title because he'll have his own creative freedom to make a character for him, and especially considering how he responded to the news of his firing from responding to Sean Ross Sapp's like uh
I
I didn't
respect
even
the
answer the
sense of humor.
phone.
I
Oh,
respect the sense of humor that he showed
yeah,
about the whole thing.
he was very positive on it, and I give him much credit for that. Um, but like when you really look back on like what Brian said with Shelton Benjamin and his match with Shawn Michaels and just what he was capable of, I think one of his biggest things was his time in the Hurt business, and we all know where that went. Thanks a lot, Vince. Um, and yeah, for me, Dolph Ziggler was the one that hurt the most because I've been very vocal on this show on my support for Dolph Ziggler. Uh, and he's just had such a long line of historic moments where it's inevitable he's going to go in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's in the top two greatest cash-ins. Like it's a toss back and forth between him and Seth Rollins. Uh, he technically is the one that for a short time being ended the Authority in that Survivor Series match. Uh, his time with him, AJ Lee, and Big E. That was a fun trio, which was at a time when he did do that cash in on Alberto Del Rio. Um, yeah, he was just in so many different ways a wasted opportunity in WWE, and I think there's still plenty of gas in that tank that I think he'll do something similar to what Drew McIntyre did, and it'll actually help revitalize his career. And will he come back? Would he come back to WWE? Possibly, and be a completely different character. We were thinking that Dolph was going to do something like this years ago. So I'm very
Eh,
po I'm it sucks that they lost the job. It sucks that they had to do this stupid mass cuts instead of just doing what AEW does and just let their contract run out. But yeah, I'm one door closes, another door opens. That's the best way to look at this.
Especially when you're a budget cut and not a disciplinary cut. So
which
it's
leads us to
Bruh.
probably the latest of all the budget, not even budget cuts, just cuts in general. Not even hours before we are set to start recording, we got word that Matt Riddle was released.
Much to the
Which,
delight of Scholar Charlie, apparently.
yeah, it's
Did you see
like
his
yeah,
message?
yeah, he's he's listen, we've watched many shows with Scholar Charlie, and he has never been a fan of Matt Riddle. But it's like, look, this has been writing on the wall for a while. Okay, it doesn't matter how good you are in the ring. It's the CM Punk stigma thing. It's like it doesn't matter how good you are in the ring. If you're a piece of shit backstage and you keep getting yourself in trouble, you're a liability. You're a liability, and you got to go. Especially when you're trying to pull this shit right when a merger is happening with that's worth over however many $1 billion, and you're gonna lie about sexual assault because you were getting frisked because you were high as fuck on an airplane. So it's
Uh,
like the minute they took him off TV, I'm like, it's very it, I see the timeline we're going down here. They're going to wait until after the merger has completed, and when they do the layoffs and roster cuts, that's when they'll cut their losses. But that's what this is. This was not a budget cut. This was a disciplinary firing based off of something that happened 3 weeks ago that they just didn't want to do, that they didn't they wanted to sweep everything under the rug until the merger actually happened so that they could do this on the down low. And they pulled it off. They pulled it off admirably. The merger went through. Most not going to get any bad press from this via Matt Riddle, and you can cut one of your more annoying superstars from backstage. And like, are are you really gonna miss him? Did he really do anything worthy of remembering while he was in the ring of WWE?
no.
I I don't think so. Not really.
I honestly can say I enjoyed Matt Riddle. When he had an upside, his upside seemed pretty high compared to
Yeah.
no, the pun fully unintended, but it's true. I enjoyed Matt Riddle, and when he was on, he was really, really good. So to me, this is like, yeah, he was never my favorite, but still, this still strikes me as being very unfortunate. But
Well,
that's just my opinion.
for me about like I feel like Matt Riddle's highs, again, no pun intended, but uh I think his best work is when he's in a tag team with someone, specifically Pete Dunne and Randy Orton. I think those were at his top points. When he tries to go for a singles run, it just doesn't work. He's not his character is not someone that would like beat Sheamus at that WrestleMania. He wouldn't be someone who would beat Gunther for the Intercontinental title. He wouldn't be someone that would especially someone who would beat Roman for the World Heavyweight title. It's just he was definitely like once Randy got hurt and had no sign of coming back anytime soon. That's when his stock started going down, and then his backstage stuff with many different scandals going, and it's just worse. And you definitely see on TV how he's now pretty much just he's the jobber. His I think his last real hurrah was that tag team match with him and Drew McIntyre versus the New Day, and you don't ever really see him landing anything. He's just getting constantly beat on until Drew McIntyre, the star of the whole thing, takes them all out. So yeah, I didn't really see Riddle going very far, but it's still just when you keep screwing up backstage, you keep getting these controversies of people say of what people are saying you done pretty terrible things. Yeah, it was just inevitable that he was going to go, and and it's just sad we're never going to see that match with Brock Lesnar. But who are we kidding? We were never going to see that match with Brock Lesnar
Yeah,
anyway.
Brock Lesnar was gonna if he got in the ring with Brock Lesnar would forget that he's supposed to protect his opponent.
Oh yeah, it would be a stiff match. It would just basically be I'm going to just beat this guy down.
Because that was another thing. Matt Riddle didn't get along with anyone backstage. Okay, he's getting into heated arguments with your top guys like Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Bill Goldberg. Okay, anyone who could work with you to get you higher on the card. Okay, all you did was piss them off. And Seth Rollins wasn't even your fault. It was your girlfriend's because she went after Becky Lynch, and then you had to protect your girlfriend's interest at
Hmm.
the time. So it's like I understand that, and that's fine. But the other three were just you talking out of your ass, man. That's it. No,
And no one likes talking out of their ass.
yeah,
You need a breath mint after talking out of your ass.
and he
Or
needed
perhaps
many
some
breath mints,
Banaka?
and
Perhaps
he
some.
needed, and I promise you, he needed many breath mints.
So, with all this in mind, I know it's still very early on at this point, but do we have any early guesses of where you can see any of these people going?
I
Where do you
think
think?
I think it's a very easy bet that Dolph Ziggler's gonna have. I don't know if he's gonna sign a contract with them, but he's gonna have at least a short little handshake run in AEW, probably to team with his brother a little bit. I think there's ready-made stuff there where even if he doesn't sign a long-term deal, there's enough for a little bit of a run there. Okay, I think you can probably. I'm torn with Mustafa Ali between AEW and Impact. Mostly because I want to see him run back the 205 live matches with Murphy.
That would be pretty stellar, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I expect to see him in Impact, but I would love to have for him to have a little run in AEW too, just so I could get some of that going. and, and I think Shelton Benjamin, you'll see him in AEW.
Speaking of which, there is even discussions with Shelton Benjamin as possibly joining the Blackpool Combat Club. What do you guys think on that one?
I
It
I've
think
seen a
certainly
lot of posts about
fits.
it.
I can definitely see a fit there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, he would be a fun fit in there. Definitely gives him something to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, Ziggler saying what Brian said, AEW to be with his little brother. Um, let's see. I'm trying to think.
I think Emma goes back to Impact to the knockouts division,
Oh yeah.
and Moss will follow her. Uh, Top Dollar's pretty much already burned all his bridges everywhere else, so I
He'll
don't know how that's gonna work.
he'll just stick he'll just stick to his rapping career.
Yeah. Um,
It's actually
I
kind of
th
surprising that the rest of Hit Row we were talking about. It's like, well, it was just inevitable that the rest of them were going, and
and no,
no.
no, they didn't. So it's like I've never seen the others like wrestle a real match. I've seen them in those squashes that they always that they had handicap squashes. I mean, how little do these people think of you when they throw you in handicap matches and you lose every single one? But let's see. Uh Mansoor and Mace. Um as I said, I watched their stream on Thursday night. Uh they have very good ideas. I watched their skits and those could work anywhere. Okay, they weren't taken in WWE, but they have the creative mindset that they could go anywhere and be successful. I think we'll see them in Impact.
I could see Dana Brooke going to Impact.
Dana Brooke
Yeah,
would fit in pretty well in the knockouts division, and they would platform her in a much better way. I think she could conceivably get the Gail Kim treatment if they do it right.
yeah. I will say this about Dana Brooke. I have had some words in the past on this show. I will say she has mightily improved from not being able to put a foot on the bottom rope twice. I will say she has improved in that, and I would not hate her being on my TV screen again. But it's like, yeah, uh, your best bet's probably to go for the knockouts division. It's probably the best way to platform you because I don't think you're gonna fit the style that AEW and ROH have because that's a different kind of Impact subscribes more to the WWE style of in-ring work.
On that
So
note, I I've got some pretty offbeat picks as far as where I can see everyone going. I'd like to get your opinion on them before we move on. For Rick Boogs and Elias, I can see them going to either AEW or Impact. For actually no, I'm gonna switch that up. I can see Rick Boogs and Elias going to Impact. I can see Mason Mansoor going to AEW for just with their athleticism and their sheer like offbeat entertainment value. And let's see, for Matt Riddle, because they gotta do something with him, I'm gonna say Matt Riddle to GCW. Your thoughts?
I I would think Rick Boogs would probably I'd say NWA for him.
I actually would say that with both Rick Boogs and Elias to NWA.
Both of
And
them certainly would fit, but I don't see more than one of them ending up there.
yeah, I'd say the better fit would be for Rick Boogs to go to NWA. And Elias probably would fit best in Impact at this point.
And you also got to think, Ring of Honor as a completely separate company. Do you think anyone would want to go there?
I find it kind of difficult to make that judgment call for sure, just because of they're
Just
still
because,
kind of under the AEW umbrella. I'd say
yeah, no,
maybe Rick Boogs. I don't know. It's a difficult way. It's a difficult one to call.
It is also it's difficult considering yes, it is under the AEW umbrella, but it is its own
it is its own
entity.
thing. It is its own thing, but all the ROH superstars end up on AEW shows. So it's kind of hard to differentiate. Like when I say AEW, I'm like I'm saying both of them because they could end up and because even though it's its own entity, it's there's a whole bunch of AEW stuff going on in ROH, and there's a whole bunch of ROH stuff going on in AEW. So it's like put it when I say AEW, I'm putting them both together. Normally, that's how I'm doing it, which is why I can say, man, I can agree with Mansoor to AEW because I expect him to be more on ROH than anything else. If he comes to AEW.
Well, I gotta
So,
say, I'm sorry. Continue.
and as for Matt Riddle, like with everything on his background, I I I think he needs to get his shit together first before anybody tries to hire him. I think the best he could do right now is GCW. I can agree with that, but I don't think any of the major companies, knowing knowing his recent backstage struggles with the scandals and the getting so high on an airplane he has to try to get out in front of it by faking sexual assault. And that's it. I'm like that's not a good look. So it's like I don't know if any big company is going to want to deal with that right away. So I think his best bet right now is GCW. Get his shit together while he's in GCW, and then he can try a major company again.
In all honesty, I can honestly see Matt Riddle just going back to MMA. I don't even really see him going back to a wrestling ring.
But it's also UFC won't take him. Dana
Yeah.
White's already said that.
Well,
So he'd have to,
there's still minor leagues.
and Bellator
They're
shut down. So he would be in the minor leagues at that point.
I don't see him really going that far in all honesty because of how just everything he's doing, but that's been happening to him. I don't see him going very far. Sad but
well,
true.
well, it is unfortunate, but these next 90 days are going to be very interesting to say the least.
Mm.
But elsewhere in the WWE, we also have some other little bits and bobs that recently came to light. Uh, on the SmackDown side of things, we do have an announcement that got word out. We've got SmackDown heading to back to the USA Network as of October 2024. The deal apparently also includes 4 specials to air on NBC. Supposedly in the same vein as Saturday night's main event. A bit of a double-edged sword here. And we also got the announcement that LA Knight got tested positive for COVID when it was supposed to be in the segment on tonight's SmackDown with John Cena of all people. So with all these things happening in and around SmackDown and the announcement of Elimination Chamber next year going to be in Australia, what does the landscape of SmackDown look like for you? What is this? Does this new TV deal imply anything? And
It
what does that mean for LA Knight?
I don't think the new TV deal implies anything. I just think that NBC Universal offered more money and WWE is in the business of making more money. So the interesting thing that I saw coming from this is that with the return of SmackDown, there's every chance that Raw and NXT are no longer going to be on the USA Network. That was stated in the report
Hmm.
that they made that so and that they're not beholden to the days that they are on. So it's like Monday Night Raw might not be Monday night anymore. NXT might jump. We might return to the NXT versus AEW wars. That might have been why they started putting big names on NXT again to test the waters to see how that would play out. Because you got Becky Lynch over there now making them go up to like 900,000 viewers, which proves to us that Becky Lynch is the biggest draw in the company.
Well, to be fair on that one, Nick Khan has been wanting to raise the stocks for NXT for literal months.
Yeah.
So,
So, but it it's also very good timing.
oh, good
One thing
timing,
you could,
but I
one
don't think
thing,
I don't
yeah,
think they were really prepping for that. That's just, oh, just a happy coincidence that it's that we're if we are moving, we're gonna move to back to Wednesday, or we're gonna move to Wednesdays, even though I do like the idea of just having each day of the week be a different different form of wrestling program.
yeah. I feel like that's the best way for the business to thrive, but we know that the WWE doesn't like that. So, so, so that's more of what this feels like. It it doesn't really change the landscape for SmackDown. It changes the landscape for all other programming that the WWE has because SmackDown's still going to be on Friday. It's going to be on the network that we all know WWE by. Okay, it's WWE is making a lot more money off of it. Okay, I did find it funny how they set up a Australian pay-per-view, and then an hour later, the second release that is announced is an Australian superstar who said it was her dream to be on a WWE pay-per-view in Australia, and then an hour later she tweets out, "Never mind, just got released." I'm like, seems like a bit of a dick move, but
Oh
it
yeah.
is
Well,
what it
to be
is.
fair, these whole cuts in general are pretty much dick move. Budget cuts my it's the same excuse. Budget cuts, yet this is one of the best years of
Yeah,
making revenue for WWE. So
it it's
it's bullshit.
it's the WWE business model.
More like
It
the
is
Vince
what it
McMahon
is.
business model. I feel like once he's gone, it'll probably go. I
No,
don't.
because that's the problem because it's Nick Khan doing these releases. So it's like we can say it's a Vince McMahon problem all we want to till we're blue in the face, but Nick Khan is the one doing these releases. So it even if Vince leaves, this is the way it's going to be. It's the WWE business model. We just have to deal with it.
Will it be the
And
TKO business model?
TKO is worse. Did you see what they gutted UFC when they bought them under the
Hmm.
it's when they bought them under the mergers. So the
Well, I didn't know
budget
that.
cuts
I don't follow UFC, so
yeah,
that's news to me.
so the budget cuts are probably going to be worse from here on out. But yeah, it's not a change in the landscape of SmackDown. And whatever LA Knight was supposed to do with John Cena, that's just going to happen when he comes back. That was to set up the pay-per-view. He was going to be the new tag team partner. So that's probably going to be a surprise entrant at Fastlane.
Sorry, AJ Styles.
Yeah. So Yes. So n- I wouldn't say that it affects the landscape of SmackDown. All this affects the other programming.
And the only other primetime thing was probably going to be just a tribute to the troops. Like
Tribute
those.
to the troops, have the random Saturday night shows
Mm-hmm.
that don't really mean anything. They're just something to throw on Saturday nights to compete with Collision.
Well, in the aftermath of all of this, there has been some talk from there's I've been surprised by the sheer outpouring of support from the wrestling community, just words of encouragement all around of people saying that, this is not the end. There's still opportunities out there, even if it looks different than you thought it might. And one of the biggest proponents of this perspective is Matt Cardona, who was one of the first personalities that I've seen come out of the woodwork to encourage people that there are opportunities out there. And interestingly enough, I just saw it announced today, another big announcement, well, at least an interesting one to me, is that Matt Cardona has teamed up with Knocking Point Wines, famously headed up by Stephen Amell, response from the people who brought you a little bit of the bubbly. They are releasing Always Ready, a blend of red wine that is complete with Matt Cardona's
Blood.
face on it.
You know it's
Yeah,
funny.
it's made with blood. What are
It's
we,
made with
Castle
Matt
Dimitrescu
Cardona's
here?
blood that every time he spills in a wrestling match.
Direct from the Deathmatch
It,
King to you.
yeah, it's just that's like the one thing based off of what I know about Matt Cardona, based off of characters that he's played and all that. Like, I would never associate him with wine.
Well,
It's
I
like
think he's
I
more
thought,
Stephen Amell as pals with him or as a fan of his at the very least. So
yeah, yeah. I'm just like I would have thought he would have been like, wasn't he like all big on the beer on his Long Island Ice or whatever?
yeah, he did. From what I saw, they did team up to make a very, very small batch of beer with like a local brewery, which I tried to get to, but I just couldn't. But
What are you
now,
guys talking about? That's not Matt Cardona. That's Zack Ryder. It's a completely different person. Come on.
enough of your
Oh,
conspiracy theories.
just like John Moxley and Dean Ambrose are two completely different people.
It's like Sami Zayn and El Generico. Whatever happened to him? We don't know.
Please, what? Oh, please! Now you're gonna. What's next? You're gonna tell me that Fire Ant is suddenly reemerging and is just putting his hands in his pockets all day? Like,
No,
come
it's I
on.
think it's more like the Elias wrestling for his brother who turned out to be his imaginary friend. Because, it's not real, man. It's everything I know is a lie.
Of
It's
those
still real to me.
lies,
It's still real to me, damn it.
It's still real to me, damn it. How dare you? How dare you
if
break
nothing
kayfabe,
else,
Elias? You son of a bitch.
hey, if nothing else, I take it as a complete and a complete vote of confidence that there's other things out there and other ways to earn money other than being attached to the WWE.
Oh, of course.
Hopefully, I plan on if I'm gonna look into maybe getting a couple bottles just to try it. Looks really good.
You gotta get yourself a nice good shot of it and just you take
I'm not I'm not doing a
whoa,
shot of
whoa, whoa. Where did that come from?
woo woo woo. This wine sure is good.
Why do I want a fist pump for some reason?
Long Island Iced Tea. Woo woo. Yeah, I'm doing
Whoa,
shots of wine.
whoa.
There's a joke in there somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
You just be doing this all the time. Just Jeff, I think you had enough of I think you had too much wine. Jeff, stop trying. Why are you climbing that fence? I'm trying to get over. Trying to get over.
I will drop kick you through a door. Because that's what Matt Cardona's doing on the indies now. He's teaming up with Steph Delander. He's kicking people through doors. Apparently, he's got a title defense against Maki Ito coming up. So,
I read that. Yeah.
what a crazy world that Matt Cardona is living in. Godspeed to him. But speaking, moving on after all of this craziness,
Indeed.
we finally got some good things happening, at least if you ask me. Looking briefly at AEW Grand Slam, for the Eddie Kingston fans like myself, we finally got it. He defeated Claudio Castagnoli in a really good match to finally win the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. Say it with me, kids. Ugh. At long last.
Yeah. Look, okay, it's the deal. I I think why Eddie Kingston is so popular with people is because he makes you think that it's still real to him, damn it. It's like you you're watching this guy and it's like I think he legitimately hates these people. I think that I think that all of this is real to him, and the crowd gets behind that. The crowd gets behind the authentic people. Like it doesn't matter how good they are in the ring. It doesn't matter how it doesn't matter what goes on. If you present yourself as a real authentic human being, people will get behind that. And when so many people are behind that and are behind you to get what they feel you deserve, when it finally happens, you get the outpouring that you got on Wednesday night because that it's the ROH world title. Okay, not really something. Well, well, maybe back in the day, but now it's like not really something you get the crowd going nuts and and all the celebration and all that you got with this particular one. But because it's Eddie Kingston, okay, the crowd reaction made this match a lot better to me than it actually was. Okay, it was a standard good time. It it was a good match, but the crowd reaction and the pop that Eddie Kingston winning got put it over the edge for me. And when a crowd's behind you like that, it doesn't matter how good you are in the ring. Okay, if you've got the people behind you, that that's all you really need.
I heard this quote. I'm very genuinely curious to get your guys' thoughts on it. The quote went like this: Eddie Kingston is the mankind of AEW and Ring of Honor. In
Oh, he's
terms of
gonna
just like title reigns and the role he plays and how beloved he is by most of the fan base, not all, but most. He sort of fit is reason to be in that similar role that mankind was for in the WWF back in the day. Thoughts, opinions?
go ahead, Tarek.
Don't ask me. I'm letting you guys do this. I
I
I'm
would
taking
say
myself
that
out. I'm taking myself out of the Eddie Kingston discussion. I got nothing to say.
it the as you can tell if you've watched this show before, Scholar Tarek is one of those people we're talking about that doesn't get the appeal. And that's perfectly fine.
No,
You're
no,
gonna
no,
have
no.
a lot of people
Trust
like
me,
that.
I get the appeal. I'm just not for it. I get the
Yeah.
appeal. I just it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So
And you're gonna and there's a lot more people like that than you would think. But it's like for ROH purposes, I would say that that's a fact. That for ROH, he would be the mankind of that company. Okay, if you try to slot that into AEW, then I'd say back up a little bit and let's
And
settle down.
I think
But
that's what
but
some people are suggesting in the
not for AEW.
context of this.
Yeah,
Well, hear me
yeah. I'm
out.
like not.
There are still a vocal subsection of fans that are suggesting if Eddie Kingston, if this is if, mind you, if Eddie Kingston were ever to be put in a position to win the AEW championship in the right setting at the right time from the right person in the right way,
Nope.
that even if that were to all come to pass, the stars were aligned and all that stuff, his reign would not be very long at all. Like maybe for a day or two, maybe a week. He would get the mankind reign.
I can see that. If he ever got
If
one, it would. If he ever got one, it would not last long. It would be for a feel good moment. But I don't think AEW is at the stage in its life
I I
that
agree. A lot of
they
people
would
are
be able to.
comparing this to just the reason that his name is even coming up right now is because that MJF is champion, and
He's not the one to take it off of MJF.
I
It
agree.
as much as look. I like Eddie Kingston. Okay, I like what he stands for. I like the idea of his character. I like that he's as real as it gets, and that's fine. But is it enough for him to jump to the top of the AEW card? I'm like I'm not that deep into it.
I'm
It's
not
like
gonna go quite that far either, but as an Eddie Kingston fan, I think I can safely say that for this moment right now, this is the ideal spot for him. He
oh yeah,
is a great he's in a great spot right now with Ring of Honor. He gets a title that he absolutely has deserved for some time in the same manner that Claudio did. That being said, maybe later if they have the right setting, maybe they can advance him, maybe. But for right now, this is in my opinion, this is exactly where Eddie Kingston needs to be and deserves to be.
yeah.
I think we can all agree on that at least.
Yeah. If he's gonna be a champion, ROH world champion is a good spot for him right now. It's the title that he's been trying to get for what 15 years now. Okay.
Oh yes.
So it's like, so it's one of those g- good feelings. Have him have a nice little reign with the ROH title, and then we can talk about other stuff. But I I think that his AEW role is going to be, unless he's facing John Moxley, because John Moxley will give that guy a win. But it's also he's at that point where he's going to be the jobber to the stars, and in AEW, and he'll only be he'll only be going for championships for the feel good moment. And I don't think AEW is at the stage right now where they can have a world heavyweight champion that doesn't have a nice reign. You can't be doing week long uh AEW World Championship runs 5 years into the company's lifespan. Can't do it. And I agree that if they do go that route, okay, then that would be Eddie Kingston's ceiling as a AEW champion. The the mankind role. I can see what they're going for, but I'd rather him stick in the I'd rather see him stick in the ROH division based on how badly he wanted it.
With all that being said, here's the final question I've got for all of you on this night's episode. With the injuries coming out of AEW, with John Moxley getting a concussion and Adam Cole getting a leg injury, as of right now, just right now, who do you see taking the title off of MJF? If you had to pick someone right now, who would it be?
That's a big question.
I mean, I still see it being Adam Cole when he turns on him because they have not given out specific information about what the injury to Adam Cole was. Okay, I know that I know that his leg got hurt and he went to the hospital and he came out on crutches, but they didn't give an official diagnosis. I would still say that Adam Cole is going to turn on MJF and beat him.
Okay, so I can definitely see that. His leg injury doesn't seem that severe. It certainly seems like a plausible thing they could do. And if you told me about 2 weeks ago, I would have said Samoa Joe. I think he would have been an excellent person to hold the AEW championship and carry that role. But yeah, this is sort of a weird transitional period where it could go any number of ways. Fool, if you had to hazard a guess right now, who would be the guy?
The only two people that are really coming to mind as potential people that could drop, that can take the title off MJF, Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, just because of the whole announcement about this being his final year. I feel like giving him a title reign before he decides to really hang up the boots would do great for adding more prestige to that title. But because Brian pointed out the whole fact that they didn't disclose at what the type of injury Cole has, now I'm just waiting for him to like reveal that he actually didn't have a foot injury and just smack him in the back with a crutch, but and just actually team back up with Roderick Strong in the Kingdom. Um,
I need to see skits of Roderick Strong and Adam Cole in hospital beds next to each other.
uh,
See what good ideas come out of the woodwork in the middle of such agony.
And now I have a not a scholar's court talk, but thoughts on the ending because everybody's got them. Might as well hear everybody out. Thoughts on the ending to the Moxley Phoenix match?
thank God it wasn't a Owen Hart Austin repeat.
Yeah,
That was my
it could have
initial
been a lot
reaction.
worse.
I'm going hopefully it's just a small concussion, but even so, concussions suck. It sucks to get that, but yeah, it honestly could have been a lot worse. And uh Phoenix is just gonna, I don't think he's gonna have the title for very long. It's a very transitional reign. And as you said, I think before we started, I don't know if we were recording at this point, or uh it was right before. The idea of Claudio going for the international title is actually one that I would love to see. The Swiss Superman go doing with the international title, just constant title defenses. That's right up his alley. That's right up with him
And
and Danielson's alley, really.
what I'd say go Claudio more because of the fact it's the international title.
Hmm.
Claudio is Swiss. It could work. I was like the thing that I took out of this is it was weird because the concussion happened on the dive before the match even started. So it's like, and you could see Moxley out of it. Okay, but apparently, from what I understand and what was said in print, was that he was knocked out when his head hit the ramp, and then he kind of came back to, so that's why he was able to continue on with the match. But as the match kept going and whatever, he started getting fuzzy again. So that's when he made the call that I just think there was a lack of communication all around
Mm-hmm.
because he was supposed to kick out of the Phoenix driver because he was going to retain the title, but he was going to kick out of the finish. But I'm not sure if he forgot to say anything to Rick Knox because, like, he's concussed. Okay, he's fuzzy. He's going in and out. He might have thought he said something, but didn't. So Rick Knox doesn't know. So he's trying to protect the finish when Mox had already told Phoenix that, hey, we're gonna hit the Phoenix driver and we're gonna go home. You're gonna be the new champion because it's like concussion. You don't know how long these things are gonna last. It could be like a week. It could be Adam Cole and be 9 months.
Exactly.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like you don't know. So it's like Moxley made an executive decision, like I don't know how long I'm gonna be out, so I'm dropping the title. And at least it was to and Ray Phoenix is no scrub, so no one's gonna complain about Ray Phoenix being the international champion. So it's like if it was AR Fox or Big Bill, then it's like, yeah,
Then
these
that's a
guys are
question.
good. Yeah, these guys are good, but do you want them to be international champion and take the belt off of John Moxley? I don't know if he needs to be putting everybody over in that spot, but it's Ray Phoenix, so it's like, okay, go for it. But it looked like amateur hour because obviously, okay, I don't think you needed to do the second one either way. I think you could have figured out a way to make the pin happen without dumping him on his head again. But and and the fact that the ref stopped the count, so I'm like, it's a difficult situation. I know you have to shore that up, but I think it was a lack of communication all around. I don't think the fault is on one or two guys. I think the fault is on everybody. But it's like
It's that one
I
Vince
do,
McMahon rule that no matter what, count if someone's knocked out, you still count to three. The fact that there was no kick out, but he's like, maybe
yeah,
just to
it's
keep the
like
match
no,
going.
you
It's like,
can't.
no, you
No, you
can't.
can't do that. You
No,
can't do that
that was a bad call.
because it's like you took me out of that finish. Whatever happens after this, I'm like, I'm already out of this match because I'm like, really? You gotta push his arm around trying to get him to kick out.
Yeah.
Can't do that. So that was the only thing that put the show down for me a little bit, but that's for obvious reasons. And everything else worked. I mean, it was a good show. I enjoyed it, and apparently a bunch of other people did because it got the best ratings that they've had in months. Almost a
Well,
million viewers.
well, with that, our opinions have been spread far and wide. You now know what we think. But with that, speaking of everything that we just talked about, now is the time where we bring it back to you, our fellow fans. What did you think of AEW Grand Slam now that it's finally been completed? What do you think of the recent WWE releases? Who's going to go where? No matter what you think, we want to hear from you. So follow us all across the internet and drop us a line in YouTube comments, Facebook posts, and our discussions on the Twitter/X machines. Let us know what you think. And if you want to join in the conversation, Fool, where can he reach you?
You can reach me trying to stay PG on certain topics of the show at the Avataric.
And Brian, where can they reach you?
You can reach me apologizing for rambling like an asshole at Atomic Beanpole. That's it.
And you can reach me having no idea what you're talking about at I'm Robbie Rage. And for
I
all
don't
these
even know what you're
relevant
talking about. There's
and
no
for all
rambling.
these relevant social media links and more, just check in the description below for our Linktree link. That's Linktree/Scholars of Wrestling. And with that, we need to catch our breath because next week we got prepared for some fresh round of predictions.
Round one of the Scholars of Wrestling Heavyweight Championship Tournament begins next week, baby!
And we're all going to be playing for the titles because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
See you all for the tournament beginning.